The film Nobody chronicles the story of Hutch Mansell, a seemingly ordinary man. Hutch and his wife, Becca, have 2 children and work in a poor office at Eddie's metal fabrication company. His marriage is troubled, and his work appears tedious. One night, 2 robbers, a guy and a woman armed with pistols, break into Hutch and his family's home. Hutch apprehended them, but for unclear reasons, he allowed the criminals take some of the cash. Not long after, Hutch's eldest son, Blake, successfully ambushed one of the robbers. Hutch then asked his son to release the man and let the robbers go. Before leaving, one of the thieves punched Blake in the face, much to his father's dismay. The incident leads everyone to believe Hutch is a failure. Becca and Blake are also upset at Hutch, whom they regard as weak and timid, unable to protect his imperiled family. Hutch's incapacity to deal with the burglary that occurred at his home yesterday night swiftly extended throughout his neighborhood and workplace. The people around him joked and publicly criticized Hutch for being too weak and frightened, so he chose to let the robbers flee after what they had done to Blake. Charlie, his brother-in-law, too seemed disappointed in Hutch. The stranger then offered Hutch a rifle that he could use to protect his family. Hutch then meets with Eddie, his father-in-law, to discuss Hutch's plans to buy his company. Eddie is dissatisfied with Hutch's offer and requests a more reasonable price. In the middle of boredom and pressure from others around him, Hutch used a secret radio in his office to contact his adopted brother Harry. Hutch informed Harry of last night's robbery and said that he had purposefully avoided fighting the thieves since they were desperate and stole out of need. Hutch could tell at a glance that the criminals who came to his house last night were a pair who were possibly desperate due to money troubles or urgent demands. This was demonstrated when the criminals took a little amount of change and fired an unloaded gun. That was why Hutch didn't fight back and let them steal the meager change from his house. After work, Hutch went to see his father, David, who was in a nursing home. When Hutch returned home, he seemed to pause for a while before entering, staring out the window at his wife and 2 children. Becca and Blake, still angered by Hutch's cowardice, ignored him when he strolled in and greeted them. Sammy, Hutch's daughter, then seeks her father's assistance in locating her lost kitty cat bracelet, which the robbers may have stolen yesterday night. When the visitors saw this, their attitude shifted and they began to appreciate Hutch more. Hutch eventually identified the address where the robbers lived. He then intimidated and forced them to give up his daughter's kitty jewelry. But then Hutch heard the sound of a baby screaming and realized the parents had a sick infant. Hutch walked away guilt-ridden and hammered on the wall, frustrated with himself. Hutch then took the bus home, where many inebriated bullies attempted to irritate some of the passengers. Hutch, looking for an outlet for his rage, requested the bus driver to get off and instantly attack the goons under the premise of shielding a young woman from sexual harassment. When Becca arrived at the house and saw her husband had come home battered, she nursed his bruises with all her heart and accompanied him till Hutch fell asleep. Hutch realized he hadn't interacted with his family since the theft event and attempted to reconcile with them. The picture then cuts to a man named Yulian Kuznetsov, a Russian criminal boss who is having a good time at a club. Yulian is a mobster who conducts a money laundering operation, in which other Russian mafias send their dirty money to Yulian in order to avoid detection by police. However, some of Yulian's mafia allies appear less confident in the man's veracity, going about their business and bringing it up in person. Unexpectedly, Yulian seized a random nightclub patron and cut his throat right in front of his coworkers, intending to illustrate to his colleagues and everyone else that he was a dangerous person, and that they should not upset him or face the consequences. Thereafter, Yulian received a call alerting him that Teddy, his younger brother, was in a coma in the hospital after being severely assaulted by a man named Hutch. Teddy had allegedly been one of the goons who had stopped by Hutch's bus on his way home. Yulian and his men went to the hospital right once and interrogated Teddy's guys to find out who had beaten his brother and his henchmen. One of the goons steals Hutch's business card and delivers it to Yulian. The next morning, Hutch, who appears to be having breakfast with his family, receives a call from Harry informing him of the beating Hutch received on the bus the night before, in which one of the victims was the brother of a crime kingpin. Harry then persuades Hutch to meet with the barber to learn more about Russia's most dangerous criminal lord. When Hutch arrives to the barber, he learns more about Yulian Kuznetsov and his illegal activities. Hutch does not appear to regret his actions, and he is willing to face any dangers and repercussions. Yulian, on the other hand, enlists the services of a female source to learn more about Hutch based solely on his business card. Unexpectedly, all information regarding Hutch reveals his terrible activities in the past while on his assignment, with it stated that Hutch never fails and always murders his targets mercilessly. After receiving the information, the informant immediately informed Yulian and opted not to get involved due to concerns about her personal safety. That night, in punishment for Hutch beating up his younger brother, Yulian dispatches a team commanded by his right-hand man Pavel to arrest Hutch at his home. When Hutch realized there was going to be an attack on his home, he hid his family in the basement and told them not to phone 911. When Yulian's thugs invaded his house, Hutch slaughtered the majority of Yulian's men before Pavel electrified him from behind, knocking him unconscious and capturing him. However, Hutch regained consciousness and freed his hands from the restraints. Hutch discovers a fire extinguisher in the trunk of a car he is imprisoned in and uses it to blind the driver, causing the car to crash, killing Pavel and his surviving crew. Hutch then returns to his house and leads his family out of the basement, where they discover dead strewn about and the house in full chaos. Before moving his family to safety, Hutch told his wife that he would handle the situation as swiftly as possible and begged her to stay with their children. After collecting all of his valuables, including a mountain of gold bullion obtained in exchange for previous work, Hutch set fire to his home to eliminate all evidence. In addition, Yulian dispatched two of his best thugs to kill Hutch's father, David, in a nursing facility. Surprisingly, the elderly David easily defeated Yulian's henchmen. Following that, Hutch went to Eddie and purchased his company with the gold bullion. Charlie attempts to assault Hutch, sensing that he is mocking his family, but Hutch manages to incapacitate him. Knowing that Hutch had massacred Pavel and his guys, Yulian instantly ordered all of his men to assassinate Hutch. Hutch, on the other hand, appears to be preparing for Yulian's attack, especially since he has openly threatened his family. Knowing Yulian's business, Hutch goes to where he stores all of his cash. After killing Yulian's guards, Hutch burns the money Yulian was protecting for the mafia, as well as Yulian's art collection. Without hesitation, Hutch rushed to Yulian's nightclub and approached him alone, threatening him with a claymore mine. Yulian then told everyone to leave and sit facing Hutch. Hutch presents a plan to reconcile with Yulian, in which he agrees not to kill Yulian in exchange for Yulian not bothering him or his family again. Hutch also stated that he had torched all of the mafia's money provided to Yulian and advised Yulian to find a new, better, and less risky profession. Hutch then left with a claymore mine and waited in his car. Of course, Yulian would never be willing to reconcile with the person who had harmed his brother. Yulian ordered all of his men to hunt Hutch when he left. Yulian and his men pursued Hutch to the factory where he warped and bought from Eddie. Unexpectedly, David and Harriet emerged to assist Hutch in eliminating the gangsters, with various weapons and terrible traps that Hutch had planned ahead of time. David is a retired FBI agent who was tough while on duty, and Harry is a highly trained ex-soldier. Despite Harry being shot in the shoulder, the three were able to overthrow all of Yulian's soldiers, leaving only Yulian. Hutch runs out of ammunition and charges him with a claymore mine hooked to a pane of bulletproof glass, which detonates and kills Yulian. Hutch turned himself in after confirming David and Harry's escape when police arrived and detained him. Hutch is interviewed by a man and a woman who are startled and can't believe that the corpses are strewn around the area, and that the majority of them were brutally slain, to which Hutch, as the only person present, admits that he was the one who killed everyone. Not long later, two of Hutch's interrogators got a call at the same time. Their expressions shifted, and they gazed at Hutch with disbelief. Following that, Hutch was released without being charged. Before departing, they asked Hutch, "Who are you?" He simply replied, "I'm nobody." Hutch Mansell, a former auditor, is regarded as the last person any corporation wants to see at their door. Hutch is a hitman working for the intelligence services. After deciding to keep one of his targets alive, Hutch locates him a year later and is already living happily with his new family. Hutch saw this and wanted the same life deep down. Hutch then opted to retire against the wishes of his superiors. 3 months later, while purchasing a new home with Becca, Hutch receives a mystery call claiming that his skills are still required. In a mid-credits scene, Harry and David are shown going to an unidentified destination in an RV stocked with weapons. Will Hutch Mansell return to his career as a hitman? Will the man reveal his real identity to his family? It's unclear whether there will be a sequel, but it's evident that this picture, like John Wick, has a lot of incredibly fantastic action moments. The moral theme of this video is to never interfere in other people's life. Although Hutch initially beat up Yulian's brother to vent his frustration, and Yulian retaliated by attacking Hutch's family, Hutch and Yulian both demonstrate the importance of family in their lives, and will not hesitate to exact revenge on anyone who dares to harm the people they care about the most in this world.